everybody. Today is Monday, December 28th, 2015, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Monday, everybody. It is 27 degrees and finally snowing here in upstate New York. But yes, it's just a few little pebbles and sprinkles. Nothing like we saw the snowstorms down in New Mexico and Texas yesterday. Yes, New Mexico and Texas. They had wicked storms. It was pretty cool, actually. We watched it all weekend. And I have a special guest for you today. We have guests with us. Guest number one. Miss Zorie is joining us. Good morning. So how are you this morning, Zorie? Did you get any snow?
No, it's just cold. No rain, no snow.
Because Vegas even had snow on Christmas. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. But we're up northern California. The mountains down there got snow. Yeah, and that's good.
Right. I've also been struggling with this plague that my parents brought in my house again this Christmas. I believe it comes from New York City. But they go get themselves all sicked up and then come here for Christmas.
Did you get it too?
My dad is super sick. Yesterday we called him. He was like, still sleeping, but I'm fighting it. You can hear. Can you hear?
Yeah, I'm fighting the raspy throat.
Yeah, but as soon as this show's over, guess what I'm doing?
Take some silver and go to bed.
I'm gonna go snuggle up on the couch at least. It's Christmas vacation this week for the kids, so can't really go back to sleep, but I could at least go into a coma.
You know, if you catch it before the cold really grabs, if you take silver and go to bed, when you wake up, there's no symptoms. I haven't had a cold in over 10 years.
Well, I've already done one 15-hour stint of sleep and felt great, actually, after that was all over. I was like, yeah, it's all kicked. And then I made the mistake of staying up late then the next 2 days. And now I'm feeling it creeping back in going, ha-ha.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we have another guest, but she ran into a bit of a snag. There were people that just showed up and some stuff is getting done. So, in about 10 minutes or so, we will have guest number 2. I know yesterday and it's the mystery guest.
Yeah.
I remember that show or that game when we were kids, and I never had it, but my friends did, called Mystery Date.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the secret door.
Right.
Is he going to have a plaid sports coat on or look like Ken?
Or plaid pants.
Mm-hmm. My sister...
Huh? And the look on their faces when they see it's either shock or, oh my God.
My sister and I had a Ken and an Oscar Goldman doll to go with our Barbies. Yeah. And Oscar Goldman had a green plaid sports coat with khaki pants. And let's just put it this way. It always turned into a fight as to whose boyfriend Oscar Goldman was going to be. And I usually lost.
I didn't even know they had an Oscar Goldman doll.
You know what? I have never seen one since, and I bet you it's probably worth some cash. I don't even know where he is anymore, but I will guarantee you it's worth some money somewhere, because who knew?
Yeah, no kidding.
Who knew Oscar Goldman had an action figure?
I didn't, that's for sure.
So we spoke over the weekend, chatted, whatever. We conversed somehow over the weekend, and we're talking about some weird stuff that you wanted to kind of talk about today. I thought it was a great topic.
Yeah, that Dr. Ross Addy, and what he did, well, he learned from the Nazis that we brought over, paperclip, and he was interested in the frequencies on how it affects the brain and mind control. Well, come to find out, the school right across the street from the San Bernardino shooting does his work, is progressing with his research. Now, isn't it weird that right across the street they would be studying mind control? And, like, he found out he was working, right before he died, he was working on remote control, mind control, where he wouldn't even have to be near the subjects. And he found that if he pointed this one frequency at 450 megahertz, he could, like, make zombie-like people. Like, they just, in a state of, like, oh, I don't know. It's just weird. But what's really scary about all this is the police have been granted the exclusive use of the 450 megahertz microwave frequency range. This is exactly the frequency used by Dr. Ross Addy, the CIA mind control expert, in his experiments on behavioral modification. It seems the police have the exclusive use of this mind control frequency and very useful for mass mind control in times of emergency. Addy found that by using 0.75 MW/cm2 intensity of the pulse modulated microwave at a frequency of 450 megahertz, it was discovered that the ELF modulation could be used to control all aspects of human behavior. It goes on to say the Sussex Police Headquarters is connected to the CCTV closed-circuit television cameras throughout the town. Some of these cameras have microwave telemetry devices that could easily be used to broadcast this frequency. The large antennae that bracket the town could also be used. Microwave mind control. That's some scary stuff.
Yeah, I would really like to dig more into that. I know that there are a few people who've been messaging me, and I'm sorry, guys. I know you've asked me to look into the stuff before on YouTube and on my Facebook before the first cup page. It's just there's so much to dig into, but at least this gives us a frequency to look at. And what's interesting about the 450 megahertz, I mentioned this a week or so ago. I don't know, it's like everything just bleeds together with the holidays. I'm so discombobulated, but whenever we were doing frequencies back the last time, and I was talking about the 2.4 gigahertz in the microwaves, your wireless, your 802.11, a lot of your cordless phones work at that frequency. Previous to that, we were using the 900 megahertz range for your cordless cell phone. And there had been a bandwidth spectrum that Nortel had been using. And Zorie, I am so certain when we were talking yesterday, I don't know what the exact frequency was, but I am certain it was in that 450 megahertz range because they de-licensed that frequency range. The FCC did until Nortel. They had to every phone that was out there that they sold to their customers that had been using that frequency range. And I mean, they were older phones. They were probably 10, 15 years old that connected to phone systems, like old school type wireless. But they told them they delisted it because our first responders were out of frequencies and they were trying to unify everything. So they told Nortel it was no longer commercially licensable. All of your customers now need to buy a different phone from somebody to be able to connect to their phone, and it ended up being huge upgrades for everybody. So, of course, Nortel wasn't disappointed, but the customers were screwed because they lost their frequency bandwidth, they lost their phones, and hey, first responders got to take all of that bandwidth. So you're saying to me now that here we have this research that's been going on in those frequency ranges, and it is also the same frequency ranges that we have police and fire utilizing.
Right, and our cell phones. You know how evil they are, and to think of the damage they could do or the control they could do just putting a frequency out through all the phones. I mean, what?
Well, I wonder if that isn't what the new Obama, because the cell phones operate at a much higher frequency than 450 megahertz, right?
Yeah,
we're looking at near the tetrahertz range.
Mm-hmm.
From what we were looking at with the cell phone towers and the stuff yesterday. No, whatever day it was. We were talking about the Google Loon project. That's kind of how this all started, with the balloons and the different frequencies that they were using on these cell phone towers in the sky that they're getting ready to launch January 1st. Look it up, Project Loon, it's for real. And the entire FCC application is all, well, not completely, but anything that meant anything is redacted. So there's no, and this is a public company putting out a public application with a public entity such as the FCC, and then they're redacting it. I mean, it doesn't even seem like they're allowed to do that. I wouldn't imagine, would you?
Well, I think they don't have, if they're a private company, they don't have to, inform people.
But yes, if you're a public company though, and you're filing an application with a public facility, a public utility, a public something to, that you want to expose, yourself to everyone in the United States, and we're going in front of a United States entity to say, here are all the things that I'm going to comply with, and here's my application. Shouldn't those applications are public? I mean, I think they're saying they have trade secrets in there or something, but here's my thing. When you file a patent, you put all your trade secrets out there. That's all publicly searchable.
That's true.
So I don't get how this backdoor butt patent collusion is happening, except with a couple slippery $1 million here and there, But the thing is, we discovered that there were some issues with these higher frequencies, that there was even research done showing that it can unzip your DNA. But for the cell phones, you're absolutely correct. It's not the cell phones itself that are operating on the 450 megahertz. It's the cell phones themselves, where then they could send out an inaudible tone or vibration or something. And we have every cell phone in America is now connected to that emergency alert system, that new presidential alert system. And did you see, without any fanfare at all, just the other day, and here's the thing, if this were such a big deal, they would have had this on every station, every channel, and had our children rehearsing it at school. They finally released a brand new terror alert watch system. Did you see that?
Yeah, I seen that.
So how's it work? Did you understand it?
No, I don't.
Me neither. So if even the people who watch the news, and not the news, but like the news, and pay attention to things that are going on, if I have no idea how it's supposed to alert me that there's a danger, they have this big mass rollout, what good's it gonna be? I really think they are setting us up right now.
And what better way to zombify everybody? You can go in, you take their guns, you can do anything, because these people are just going to be in a state of like unconsciousness. Or panic. Yeah.
Or whatever other emotions. We were looking at how they could get you to change emotions with frequency. I mean, music is a perfect example of that.
Right, and they did that in the first Iraq war.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and they admit to using it. So why couldn't they use it here? All they have to do is fly over and send out this frequency. Or all these cell phone towers, I mean, there's millions of them across this country. They could send out one alert at one frequency out through there, and that's scary.
Well, and not only are there millions of cell phone towers, but they're just getting ready to launch this Project Loon. So we're going to have millions of cell phone towers in the sky 24/7.
How can they do that? Like, isn't it, Google's involved in that some Because I remember reading.
No, that is good. That's Google's project. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and they're working. Here's the best part. So there's Google Loon, and this is going to be to spread internet far and wide. But then remember, it was only supposed to be for like the unpopulated continents. Now all of a sudden, they're focusing on America. And in the story that we read the other day, they were all kind of scratching their heads why that is. But here's what I thought about. I was like, well, guess what? Right around that same time, we have NASA and Verizon working to be...
Verizon seems involved in everything in the background, kind of like.
What?
Verizon seems to be just as involved as Google.
Oh, Verizon is, the very first time when it came out that there was a company, and I'm sure it wasn't the first time, but the first time, at least in my tech career, back in the early to mid 2000s, I think it's maybe like 2003, 2004, it came out that Verizon had been bending over and spreading them for the federal government and handing over records without warrants. And then it came to light and everyone's like, you were giving information to the feds, and then they had to pass some new legislation to get them, because then Verizon was going to get sued. People were going to sue them for privacy breaches.
And they gave them immunity. How about AT&T?
They did. They gave them all immunity. That's exactly what happened. So Verizon is from the very beginning, and they're one of the reasons why the climate is the way it is. But you gotta remember too, Verizon that was a spin-off of the original Ma Bells. They had all those spin-offs that happened. I should have bought stock in them. I remember when they first became a new company and I was like, oh, look at this new company. Wonder what they're gonna do. The other one was, Lucent, when Lucent spun off from AT&T, which I think they're gone now, but I remember they did pretty well also.
I remember it was weird when they took away Ma Bell and then it went to AT&T and and then what other one? Well,
it didn't really take it away. Nortel. Nortel's always been the Alexander Graham Bell's original company. They've just split it up and changed its name and merged it so many times that it really became like the Baby Bells. They were probably, I don't know, it's been so long since I've been in that industry, but there were probably a couple, at least, that were the core, but most of them are gone now. They're, phone is being done as an internet service providership. Even good old Frontier, Verizon was like the incumbent in upstate New York for all of the home line telephones. Frontier is another one that's big up here.
It's here too.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, so they don't serve this area here, but they serve up where Dane lives, and you can't use anything else but Frontier.
Right, and that's the way it always was. They were incumbents, and remember, that was back in the day when the phone company was like the government. When I was a kid, and my dad it was like when you first were able to buy a phone that wasn't the puke peach phone attached to your wall from the phone company, right? We had this little one that's cool. It had push buttons on it that were the roto dial push buttons.
I still have one.
As it would count, it would be mimicking rotary with a fake push button. But yeah, so he was always kind of a circuity guy. So he figured out how to hack the phone jack. I'll never forget that. And he ran a second line. So we had this other phone like down the hall. So then you had two phones. And I remember my mother telling me she'd go to the store and she's like, if anyone from the phone company comes here, don't let them in.
I remember when you could
father
put
your own jail. That's what she told me. Because it was so illegal to do that. I mean, that's bullshit. Come on. You weren't even allowed to have another phone at that point.
Well, you could have a phone, but they had to come and install it. You weren't allowed to do it yourself.
You had to pay extra.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to get back to mind control because it still ties in. So I almost think from back even in those days. Now, the way the old phone systems used to work, the SS7 network up in the service provider, so the Verizons, the AT&Ts, the good old Ma Bells, is they had this SS7 network, and it was all based upon tones. right? That's where the original hacking, which they called freaking, came from, with the Captain Crunch whistle, right? So people were, and trust me, in my job, my engineering job that I did for quite a number of years, the guy who sat across the way from me, like we stared at each other every day, he is one of the originals, one of the grand originals. I think I told the story a long time ago, but it ends up that back in like 1974, he's actually the guy that my mother read the story about in the newspaper, who got caught by the phone company for making free long distance calls by blowing his whistle, and he was only like 16 years old. And the feds came and got him. Well, It just so happens, my mother read that story to us when we were children, and 30 years later, guess who was my coworker?
Yeah, him?
Absolutely. When we went out to lunch, oh my God, he was so awesome. We got along so great. So like when I first started, we used to go out to lunch all the time, and it was just constant, like two brains in high gear, just dumping on each other. And he's telling me this story, and I'm like, oh my God, when I was a kid, I remember there was a story like that in the paper, and he's like, oh my God, when we get back, he actually had the article. And I even remember the newspaper was in. It was in the one that, out of Buffalo, that isn't there anymore. He had the article. I have a copy of the article here. But, that was him.
Wow.
I'm like, what are the chances? All these years later. And my mother and I mean, honestly, when it happened, it was the phone company and it was the feds. And so it was such a big deal because the 16-year-old kid got arrested and here's what he was doing is when buildings would burn down and stuff down in the city, because he lived in the city, he would wait a day or so and then he'd go rummaging around through there to see what equipment he could salvage out of the fire. So we'd end up with ladder racks, for hanging out gear and old pieces of phone systems. And he was like a, rocket scientist genius at 6,
Yeah.
He was putting all this stuff together. And I mean, nobody knew how to do this. That's why he got a job, actually. After all that went by, that's how he got his first job. And he's still working in the same place that he started, was because they all knew about him, and he was like this kid genius. Yeah, but he told me it was Christmas time, this time of year, and he had the whole attic up at his parents' house. He had the ladder racks all lined up on the attic ceiling, and he had all of his phone systems, and he had figured out how to make these free long-distance calls by using these different frequencies. Now, mind you, his other hobby is high-end musician. So I know they have a lot to do with each other. He definitely has that mindset. But, they used to use the tones to do the actual dialing. And instead of, using patch cords or whatever, it was using the tones to make it work. But they're finding that that's exactly how the brain works.
I know. And the things they're finding out about the brain, it's just, and like, they said in the experiments, they would shoot out this one frequency and watch the reaction. Like this one guy said that he could make a monkey act like a robot just by the frequency, but if they moved the frequency to either side, then there was no effect.
Right.
So they fine-tuned it down to where it's scary. It really is scary.
Well, DARPA's dumping all kinds of research now into these different technologies using frequencies and magnetics and electrical shocks, and they're finding that there's all kinds of treatments with the brain and the vagus nerve and whatever.
And then our DNA, affecting it. It's just, man, technology. I'm still rocking from reading.
No rocking.
Because I dabbled in frequencies a little bit, but when I was reading this, it's just like, wow. And then remembering back how they used it in the first Iraq war, and how many years ago was that? Look at how far they...
91? 91?
It was in the 90s.
Yeah.
But
that's right after I got out of college.
Yeah. So, I don't know. And then when you think about it, we are surrounded by all these megahertz and stuff. What is that doing to us? After
I did a show one time where some Dutch artist had put out some art, and it really was just a shot of the room and basically how inundated we are by all these different frequencies. He had something that was able to detect the RF and, so we had the radio frequencies, the wireless frequencies, microwave frequencies, whatever is all floating around here, and the entire room is full.
Right. Well, after reading this article, I went looking at some frequency videos, and since then I went out to my shed in the middle of the night, and I took out my cordless phone, took it away, because it was right by my bed, and how much it puts out, it's affecting you while you're sleeping. And I went back to the wired phone. I plugged it in.
Yeah. You should not sleep with cell phones next to your bed. And I am the worst offender for that. I plug it in and I put it on its charger and I stick it on the head of the bed and it's my alarm clock. So how stupid is that? I
know, me too. Well, I'm talking about the cordless phone you use in your house. If your base is right by your bed, that's affecting you too a lot. I wish I would have saved that video, because the guy went really deep into everything that's around us. It's like you said that artist did. He captured if we could see, we'd be shocked, I think.
Yeah, the regular cordless phone, depending on what one you have, would either be the old ones are 900 megahertz and the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5.8 gigahertz. But those are running in the same spectrum as the wireless, your 802.11 wireless for your computers. And like I said, the 2.4 gigahertz is also microwave, your microwave oven. Exactly. I was reading that there are some 5.8 gigahertz microwave ovens, but they're not too common.
Wow.
I did a quick search for 450 megahertz, Nortel and old. And I'm seeing stories from 2004, so I'm pretty certain that that's the same bandwidth that they ditched there and gave it to the first responders. It was the old companion line. Absolutely, there you go.
Yep. Huh. So it's just and then they have that other thing they used at the G20, I think it was, that the frequency is so high that it can damage your ears.
A sound cannon?
Yeah.
On the protesters?
Right.
Here we go. All right. We have guest number 2. Come on. I think she's on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey.
Guest number 2, Lady Pitbull. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm sorry I'm so late.
Happy holidays.
Yay. Happy holidays to everybody too. I've missed everybody. How are you guys?
Good.
We're just yapping about frequencies and mind control.
Oh, right on.
Figured that would kind of dovetail well into what you wanted to talk about today, too.
Oh, my goodness. There's so much crap happening. Oh, man, it's just not even funny anymore. I don't even know where to start.
I stopped laughing like 3 years ago. Except only evil, diabolical laughter. That's about all that works now.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta mimic what they're doing, huh? Wow. Oh my goodness. So, gee, my.
Do you have snow? That's a good place to start.
It's starting to sleet here right now, and we're supposed to get freezing rain like up until in the late evening hours tonight. So I'm thinking things are going to be a sheet of ice here very shortly.
Do you see? I mean, Zorie and I were talking before the show, that Texas storm that ripped through New Mexico and then into West Texas. Now I didn't look at it this morning, but they were predicting it was going to go across the rest of the state and then start hitting down in Louisiana and Oklahoma and that. But was like a perfect line where the cold was coming down from the West Coast, riding the back end of the Rockies and hitting just that section like, the pocket in bowling, like right there at the bottom with New Mexico and West Texas in the middle, the cold air and then the warm air coming from the other direction, and it made this insane 4-season vortex down there where they had tornadoes, wicked severe thunderstorms, ice storm, and blizzard all at the same time.
The perfect storm.
Dallas is now experiencing snow right now, and I was watching Suspicious Observers this morning, and there is a pocket of cold air all the way down into South America, and then up in northern Europe is warmer than it is in South America right now.
Well, and that's exactly it. How can it be warmer in Rochester, New York, for the majority of our winter, mind you, than it is in southern Texas near the Mexican border? I don't see how that is normal in any stretch of the imagination, even including El Nino excuses.
Right.
Because it's not. And
Wow.
I'll tell you something else. I've been a weather junkie my whole life. I have never seen over one city, literally one city. We're looking yesterday, and it's like the city is the pinwheel center, and the pinwheel is all 4 seasons swirling around it. And that storm wasn't just moving like southwest to northeast like normal weather does. It looked like it had some Gulf warmth coming in, and it had the cold pushing down from the Rockies, so it was literally pinwheeling like a hurricane. And not only that, but the front was stretching from southern Texas all the way up to the Great Lakes where it's coming into you guys now.
Yes, and it's crazy. And I was watching.
Crazy.
It is beyond crazy. It's okay. I was watching the radar the other night, 2 nights ago, when those tornadoes were starting to hit Texas, and the rest of the front was moving. You can see it moving across Texas, but right where the tornadoes were concentrated, it seemed on the radar that they weren't moving, that they were stationary, and it was just there like these darn radar blips that don't move, along with the rest of the storm system. It's really bizarre. I don't even know, I've never seen anything like it, and me too, I've been a weather junkie forever, and I've never seen these weird radar blips that I've been seeing. It's crazy.
Or like, I don't remember what the final numbers were, but like the wicked thunderstorms that they got with the 20 feet of rain this spring, right? After they'd been like on fire for a whole summer, it looked like the whole state was on fire because they were in such bad shape with drought. And then they got so much rain that everybody flooded. Like, we've been doing the playlist all this year, and anything for Texas weather is just beyond normal. So anyway, so you're getting some freaky weather coming in here over the next day or so.
Yeah, right now, actually.
Is this like some of your first snow? I mean, we've had a few sprinkles, but
Actually, about a month ago, we had a whole foot of snow.
oh wow.
It was a whole entire foot, and then it melted in 3 days. That was a trip. But if you guys remember that, with all the stuff going on in Texas, Texas has been declared a enemy combative state.
Yes, and see, I'm going to tell you, I know that sounds like lunacy, but I've been thinking that. You know what? Even the governor came out and had stood up against, the whole Jade Helm thing, if you remember, and he came out, I think it was Perry, came out saying, that he was going to be watching the border better and all this other stuff. They came out against the federal government, and they wanted they had their own goals, right? So
Yes.
they weren't going to mess around, and all of a sudden, Texas has been like the brunt one after the other, after the other.
Just like
the other.
Fukushima, they didn't want to get into the World Bank, and look what happened there. And I think HARP and the chemtrails have a lot to do with this.
Oh, yes.
Possible. Texas, from what I've heard from my friends down there, and even if you look at that Skyder Alert app, Texas seems to get a lot of chemtrails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no accident. It's no accident what's going on here.
So, alright, so Zorie and I were talking about the 450 megahertz range. Zorie, why don't you tell, since none of us talked before the show, why don't you tell Lady Pitbull what you discovered, with this, the reason why we even brought this up today?
Yeah, we're still looking into the San Bernardino shootings because I always like to do the follow-ups to see where things change and stuff. And, last night I came across this video that told us that right across the street from the shooting is, there was this Dr. Ross Addy, and, from when we brought the Germans over in Paperclip, they were experimenting with frequencies on the brain. And through them, because he was interested in that, he started doing research on mind control using frequencies. Well, the university across the street from the shooting are doing the same work that he was doing, mind control. So how weird is that they're right across the street?
That's a ding, 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 right?
Yeah, ding, ding.
Yeah.
It went the same thing for that Cho kid and the North Carolina Carolina University, Virginia Tech Virginia Tech. There's also a heavy mind control facility in the Virginia mountains, like right where that college is. Same darn thing. Same thing. Yeah.
Right. So, we need to look into this frequency thing deeply because this is some scary stuff. And we're surrounded with things that put off frequencies. And the fact that one, what was it? The 450, megahertz? Wasn't that the one and they've assigned exclusive use of this one frequency to law enforcement.
Oh.
Yeah. Just, I don't know enough to talk about any of this intelligently. So.
I know, I think we need to look into it some more, read some more, and then do a show on it once we break it all down.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. That's what they do though. They flood us with all this improbable stuff that, you start talking about it and you look like a lunatic when you talk about it. It's the same stuff that happened that Jules always talks about, all the tech, I was actually listening to one of Jules' shows, when I was going to the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and my mom was in the car with me, and Jules was reading out of, one of the tech things, tech articles, and my mom's jaw was like on the floor.
Oh no, what was it? Good thing I've been trying to keep my shows clean-ish.
Well,
I didn't know your mom was listening.
Just a fact that it was the facts about the implantation of the microchips in the brain.
Oh, the new implantables.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my, I can't even believe it.
Yeah, no, they're really the whole wearable computing thing and doing the healthcare. That's what it was.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. And she's in the healthcare business, so she kind of knows, in her guts, that this stuff's going on.
Right.
But then when she heard you read it, she was like, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, what are they doing to us?
Yeah, and the whole precision medicine initiative is going to usher this all in and get us to take the chip. I'm telling you. I really think, and these kids are just so integrated already with the machine that they want it. They want to do this.
Well, who's to say they haven't put it out there in our food nanotechnology already?
Oh, I'm sure. If not that, something else.
Well, it's titanium dioxide. It's the nanotech in the food. Ugh. Mm-hmm. It's hideous. It's insidious and hideous.
And scary, and I'm rocking again. Damn, I got stuff.
Yeah, no rocking.
It's a very good doctor.
I think chair massager would do better. Get a massage, not a rock.
There we go.
So, well, one of the things I find interesting, too, in looking at these frequencies, and we are bathed in them, and I really, someday if I get a year to do research and then come on and do a show, maybe we can. It just, I don't know, it's not possible for me lately, just with time constraints and all these projects I'm trying to get finished by the end of the year, which probably isn't going to completely happen because the end of the year is like just 2 days or 3 days away now. But they bathe us with all of these frequencies from all these different devices, including, our smart meters, right? We were talking about that on Friday, but I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. The director of the National Institute of Mental Health, right? So this Tom Insel, and I just did a story about him last week. He wrote an op-ed piece for the New York Times. We had read about him when he first left the federal government, and I believe it was November 1st is when he was moving to his new position in Google Life Sciences. So this is the former mental health director of the United States is now moving to Google. And his big issue that he wanted to work on was diagnosing mental diseases using smartphone apps.
Wow.
Through your voice patterns.
Wow.
Right. So now if we can, and right before that came out, they started talking about how mental illness is no longer a specific thing. It's on an entire spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Anybody will be able to be diagnosed with mental disease. As Obama is dumping all this money now into fixing the mental health care system. And I'm not going to say that there is even anything close to a mental health care system out there. I mean, we were talking over the weekend about friends that we know that can't get help, or friends of friends, or kids of friends who...
Right, they closed down all those clinics.
Right, they can't get help. But on the other hand, do we want some draconian lunatic who's working... Oops. Oh, no.
Actually, I know a good friend of mine that's lost his mind he's had a psychic break. Like right now, as we speak, the poor guy is walking the streets of Detroit right now, just aimless. He can't even get help, even if he wanted help.
Did it come on him all of a sudden, or was it progressive?
It was gradual. It was kind of gradual, and then he went nuts. He went nuts, and I mean JJ knows this guy too, dude, and he just had a break with reality, and he went into a mental institution for like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks, maybe. He was actually court ordered to be there for 30 days, yet a week later, they let him out in the streets, and the guy lost his house. He lost all of his possessions. He just had his car impounded yesterday.
Oh my God.
Last night, I guess he was in Detroit in a casino that he got kicked out of, lost his coat, now has no money, wandering the streets. There's nowhere for this poor guy to go get help. And he thinks that all the medicines and stuff, like we do, all the pharmaceuticals are out to poison him and kill him, so he's not, willing to go, take medications to balance the chemical imbalance that's going on in his brain. And so I don't even know where the dude is. And he's a very good friend of mine, and it breaks my heart to think that this guy, and I'm sitting here seeing all the sleet and the freezing rain coming down like crazy right now, and he's out there without a coat. I mean,
well,
my
hope the
God.
police pick him up or something and get him into a warm building. I mean, that's better than being out there.
But that's the sad part of the matter. So since there isn't any help out there for people who really need it, and I mean help that you could trust, help that you're not afraid that they're going to put you in a 5-point harness and start doing like Clockwork Orange experiments on you, they put them into jail.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And
you know,
John
that's
Engler,
the profit prison, right, Zorie? I mean,
well, in the winter, a lot of the homeless try and get arrested just so they can get out of the elements.
Yes. And, you know, John Engler here in Michigan, the governor, like in the 80s, he closed down all the mental institutions and then just set them all on the streets to wander. And it's really a sad state of affairs. I had a friend that died. She was like 29 years old when she died, and she had a severe bipolar imbalance, and I think the lithium killed her. And she was really for mental health rights. That's what she wanted to get into. But she died before she could, you know, see that through.
What state was it where they were taking people with mental health issues and putting them on a bus
on buses and sending them
to
off.
another state? Yeah, wasn't it like to California or vice versa?
No, it wasn't California, but they were sending them like to Arizona and California.
Yeah, Colorado or something like that. It was something out west like that. I remember that.
It's really disturbing. And I mean, I could totally see how somebody would not want to trust the medical establishment, especially when you weren't in control of all your faculties. I mean, that's a pretty dangerous, horrible place to be in. But on the other hand, you know, I mean, if you definitely have a break, I mean, there have been people that I've known. I mean, you can get pushed to that point. I mean, anybody could get pushed to that point. And especially, you know, kick out a couple of the legs that are like the foundation, or get involved with something that's there's so many chemical substances out there right now that we have no idea what is actually in them or how powerful they are.
Yeah. You know, I have a feeling, because this guy is awake like we are. He knows, he's hyper intelligent. His IQ is way the hell up there. So he can't deal with the pharmaceutical industry. He can't deal with he knows about the stuff that we know. And that's why he's avoiding all this. But in the meantime, he's spiraling into an abyss. And I think what may have triggered all this stuff was smoking copious amounts of wax, made from butane that, you know, they blow all these, they
smoke that?
Yeah, it's called, it's actually what it is, it's freebasing THC, and because you can get it in dispensaries here, and he was even blowing this stuff, you blow this THC particles in with butane into a waxy substance where you just put it on you put it on some glass and you smoke it that way, and it's called dabbing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty hardcore, and it makes me wonder, you know, Zorie and I were going back and forth yesterday. The FDA is now recommending that they move marijuana off of the Schedule 1. And I'm going to tell you, I still have this little voice in the back of my head, and I know everyone's all excited about all these states where pot's become legal, and we got medical marijuana now rolling out. And remember, I'll tell you what really gave it away was Sanjay Gupta, like, swallowing his pride to come on to national TV, to CNN no less, and say he was wrong about marijuana, and he did this whole series called Weed 2.0 or something, and I am gonna tell you, it still is eating at me at the back of my mind that I think that they're doing something to the pot, and they're going to roll it all out, because
I've been thinking that too.
Who were the ones who were against all this GMO crap and against all the war and against all this stuff? But the hippies, right? Traditionally, the open-minded, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I'm
Right.
thinking that when you have something under government control, which they're doing with the pot, I think there's room to worry.
Absolutely. And remember the paraquat?
Mm-hmm.
And if that isn't any indication of what they could do, and they already poisoned it once, now
Yep,
it's
right.
probably some sort of RNAi switch-flipping GMOs that they've been cultivating in Uruguay.
Yep.
Right.
No, but they did. I had read that there were all kinds of stories and nothing that I've been able to document to go, look, Monsanto's got a patent in Uruguay. But Uruguay is where they legalized it all. And then I started seeing all these stories that they were growing Monsanto GMO pot down in Uruguay. So who knows?
Wow, that's hardcore. I mean, really, if it's organic, and not full of chemicals and not genetically modified, but then you add butane to it, I mean, something's gonna
Well, there
happen.
should be like an organic pot label.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Just
No
grow your own.
pesticides, no genetically modified seeds, pay a
Yes.
premium.
There will
Yeah.
be. There will be. You
Well,
wait.
SLC says there's no GMO cannabis yet. Well,
We don't know that.
I mean, I'd hope not.
Well,
But
they took away the labeling, so hey, we don't
they
know.
did. They took it away, and we saw Sanjay Gupta when he did his tour. He was in some super secret lab with the pharmaceutical companies in England. Remember?
Oh boy. That's crazy. Oh my god, Sanjay Poopta.
Sanjay. And who was he? Oh, he's not just a reporter for CNN. Obama tried to make him the Surgeon General.
Yeah.
So, Gupta's not just some reporter.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they wanted to make him, and he said no, he wanted to keep his career.
Oh my goodness, man. That's crazy. No, I don't want to bend over for the, oh, never mind. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I think we need to continue this conversation because we got about 2 minutes left. By the way, it was a Monday show. Somehow last Monday was set to rebroad. And it started the show out. So I was talking, but I wasn't talking. I was talking over myself.
Oh, I heard that earlier. I was
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
And then I couldn't log in. Everything was syrupy slow.
Oh,
Yes,
man.
Philip Morris will be soon, says possible suspect. And I saw back in the 80s hanging out with some of my deadhead friends. I'll never forget, it was a weekend. We're all kind of just sitting around on a Friday night and the TV's on, but no sound. And there was some, I don't know if it was like 60 Minutes or something was on in the background. And here this quote unquote commercial comes on. And none of us were really paying attention until we saw Juan Valdez walking through the forests of green with his cigarette packet that looked just like Marlboro except in gold and a big pot leaf on the front of it. And it was called Acapulco Gold. And it was, of course, back in those days, legalization was up in front of Congress again. And, of course, it didn't pass, but Philip Morris was all ready to rock and roll with their 20 packs of doobies that they could sell commercially. So they've been waiting for that for a long time. And we also know that with some of the DARPA and the vaccine stuff, right, they already were using tobacco plants. So
Right.
Philip Morris and Metageico and some of those other companies are already working together to suck them into the mad science gone mad apparatus.
Yes, absolutely. It's all ready to roll out.
It sure is.
Well, they've had patents for years. They've known all about this for years and years.
They have. Well, ladies, guess what? We got about 5 seconds left. I don't know. I'm here every day this week if anybody feels like it. Let me know, because
Okay.
I don't know. It's vacation. It's vacation with the child. Oh, there probably won't be a bumper. You know why?
Why?
Oh, 'cause get out.
Yeah, because it was set up to,
Play.
damn. It was set up to play a rebroad.
Some
So-
things never change.
I know. And of course I didn't even check, but whatever. All right, I guess we're gonna have to do the music ourselves. Down in a down in a down in a down down in a down in a down.
Bye, everybody.
All right, ladies. Hey, yeah, thank you so much for being on today. And please, if you're around all week or any day for that matter, just let me know.
Harness all of human knowledge with a few keystrokes. It can remember billions of things accurately. They can share knowledge at electronic speeds that are a million times faster than human language. So it'll be a very powerful combination. But the last point I'll make is that it's not some alien invasion of intelligent machines coming from Mars to invade us. It's coming from within our civilization, and the whole point of it is to extend our reach. Ever since we picked up a stick to reach a higher branch, we've used our tools to extend our reach. We can now already extend our reach mentally. I can take out a device from my pocket and access all of human knowledge with a few keystrokes. Half the farmers in China have these devices and can do the same thing. It is spawning a real cultural revolution in China and around the world, and these tools are continuing to grow exponentially in power. The singularity is not just that point where we achieve human level of intelligence in machine. I mean, that will start a new revolution where these machines will continue to grow exponentially in power. They'll be able to actually improve their own software design. By 2045, we'll have expanded the intelligence of our human-machine civilization a billion-fold. That will be singularity. We borrowed this metaphor from physics to talk about an event horizon that's hard to see beyond. Well, it's not the case that I'm only looking at the optimistic side. I mean, I am an optimist, and I do think we've been helped more than we've been hurt by technology already. Human life expectancy was 37 in 1800, and human life was very hard, disaster-prone, labor-filled, disease-filled, and so on. But I've actually written extensively about the dangers of all this. Bill Joy's article on the cover of Wired magazine, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, which talked about the grave dangers of genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics, came from my book.
Now, because computer power keeps doubling every 18 months, it means that will affect biology, specifically genomics, meaning that within 10 years' time, I expect us to have a CD-ROM with every single gene in our body costing about $1,000. And that'll be the basis of all your medicine, which means that we'll be able to scan millions of genomes with a computer, and that can create a revolution in how we numerically analyze genes. For example, let's say we have 1 million old people and 1 million young people. We sequence the genes of old people, we sequence the genes of young people, because all of them have a CD-ROM, and we subtract. That allows you to isolate where aging takes place, specifically which genes are damaged